Hello, Formula One fans, and welcome to Box3Cast episode 10, where we'll be discussing the Australian Grand Prix weekend and the upcoming Malaysian Grand Prix. I'm, of course, Justin.
And I'm Mikko.
And the wait is finally over. The Formula One 2014 season is officially underway, and it's been controversial, if nothing else. Right off the bat, I want to get this out of the way. We're going to first talk about the new sights and sounds of Formula One 2014. Obviously, lots of regulation changes. We've been talking about all these changes in the Boxcasts going back for a few months now, and we're finally getting to see the result of all of these changes. And certainly, the cars are quieter. The what I've heard from people is that you can go to the race without earplugs now, though. There's no need to have the earplugs in. So, what I'm kind of understanding is that the sound isn't too bad when you're at the track. But on the TV, it just seems like the engine noises are almost drowned out by the commentators.
Yeah, it's pretty much up to the mix of FOM the or the broadcaster. So
Yeah, the individual channels.
yeah,
Yeah,
so
they got to do something. I mean, even on the F1 show, they were talking about it. Apparently, there's maybe some sort of modification they can do to the exhaust, which would possibly allow the engines to be a little bit louder. I'm thinking possibly if they could just up the fuel restrictions ever so slightly, then maybe the engines could run at a slightly higher RPM.
yep.
But unfortunately, I think they would need a bigger fuel tank in order to pull that off. So that's not really a solution that I can see happening this year. I'm not sure any solution is possible for this year other than the broadcasters just turning up the mic volume for the stuff that's on track and on board.
Yeah, well, they could up the fuel flow rate limit because I mean they already show that they can do the race with 100 kilos of fuel, and if they up the flow rate, the teams don't have to use the max revs.
Yes, yeah, absolutely. I don't know if they're restricted at all in their ability to do that for this season, but even Bernie Eccleston has been quoted as saying that he is unsatisfied with the sound of the cars at the moment. They do sound a little bit more like actual cars. Which I think is kind of a bummer for a lot of people because F1 cars are supposed to be this technology that's far above and beyond anything that you can find in a road car. And the fact that they kind of are starting to sound like road cars, I think, is what kind of bugs people. Obviously, all of the ERS system, all of that battery power that they're getting for the 170 horsepower, that's all silent. You can only hear that when it's actually harvesting, not when it's deploying. So it's a little bit strange. Now, I do want to briefly talk about the benefits, though. As I'm sure a lot of people noticed, you can hear the tires now when they're racing, which is really nice. I really enjoyed being able to hear the tires locking up or under rotating. If you're a driver, under rotating through the corner, it was really nice. It was also really nice being able to hear the crowd when something really intense
Yep.
happens. So there are benefits to the slightly quieter engine noise.
Yeah, well, there was a bunch of polls on multiple channels, I think, and in the internet. If you just have to go with a yes or no, do you like the sound? I would still go with yes. What about
Yeah,
you?
absolutely. Yeah, no, I agree. I agree. I still like the sound of it. It is very different. But again, I tend to be the type of person that just tries to look on the bright side of things.
Yeah,
Yes, it might not sound as intense, but you have all these other benefits that you're getting from the slightly quieter noise. Plus, clearly, it is an issue that they're looking into for the future. That gives me a little bit of encouragement because clearly, the FIA and the higher ups, the people that are in charge of this sort of thing, they're a little bit disappointed as well, and they can certainly sense the fans' disappointment as well. Um, so it's something that will probably improve. Now the cars definitely are harder to control because they have so much torque now. There is no power curve on energy coming from a battery. It's not like an engine that needs to spool up. It's just 100% power 100% of the time, and it's just controlled by a computer, of course. But there's it's just immediate power. So we're seeing the drivers actually struggling with the cars. It looks almost more like a like they're racing in the '80s F1 car or something like that before the traction control.
Yeah, as Kevin Magnussen showed in the start,
Yeah,
almost hit
right
the
at the
wall
beginning.
actually.
Yeah,
Very well
that
caught.
was pretty intense. And then I don't remember if it was quali or in the race, but Sergio Perez had a pretty dramatic slide slash drift, whatever you want to call it.
So
There
did
was lots
Hamilton.
of yeah, lots of sliding, which is really great to see. These are the most talented drivers on the planet. It still blows me away that you can even call them drivers, because they are far beyond anything that a typical driver does. And it's just really great seeing them having to actually put all of their skills just to keep the car on the road. Never mind win the race, but just to control the car requires 100% focus from them. I think it was Martin Brundle who was talking about how as towards the end of 2013, a lot of the cars were just kind of point and squirt, and you just pretty much give it full power. Especially cars like the Red Bull, which had the cylinder cutting, which was giving better traction out of the low-speed corners. It was getting a little bit simplistic, even without traction control. So
Mhm.
it's definitely nice seeing the drivers struggling a little bit with these cars.
Yeah, it is. And should we just hop onto the race or quali first, maybe?
Yeah, yeah. Quali, real quick. I think it was Rosberg who was on pole at the start for a lot of Q3, and then it was Ricardo. Sorry, I'm gonna make a conscious effort to try start calling him Ricardo, because he apparently has said that's how it's pronounced. So if he says it's Ricardo, then I'm gonna call him Ricardo. But he was actually I couldn't believe when he snatched pole position. I'm not a huge Red Bull fan. I've always kind of preferred John Eric Verne over Daniel Ricciardo, but it was really nice to see a driver get a pole position in a car that many believed was incapable of pole position at his home race, especially as a rookie for this team. It was just really, really nice to see, and it was amazing to hear the crowd.
Yeah.
I got chills on my arms. My hair stood up when I heard that crowd, and I just see him shoot up to the top of the list. I mean, it was just an amazing feeling. Certainly one of the best qualifying sessions I've seen in recent memory. I think the most recent qualifying that even comes close to that was Spa last year,
Yeah.
2013. I think it was kind of comparable to that. And I was very excited for the race after all of that. Of course, it was Hamilton who ended up taking the pole position in the end, and there was quite a response from the crowd when he posted his pole position lap as well.
It was kind of a mixed bag of
Yeah,
cheers and
yeah.
awes.
Oh.
Yeah, but it was like from a soccer match or something. The cheers for Ricardo. It was really great.
Yeah, yeah, it was amazing. I mean, it was like they were in a stadium, and I'm not sure how many people they can fit in the grandstands on the start finish straight there, but I can pretty much guarantee that it's not as many people as you would see in a football stadium and that sort of thing. So. Yeah, that was really amazing. In the end, though, Hamilton did get pole. Ricardo second, though, splitting the two Mercedes was really impressive to see. Clearly, the Red Bull is capable. Aerodynamically, it's probably one of the best cars, if not still the best car on the grid.
Yeah.
So eventually, I think what they proved in that qualifying session alone, not even counting the race, just that qualifying session, is that Red Bull is still a threat. No matter what people think about what's going on with them, they are still a threat because as soon as they get their problems sorted out, then they're going to be serious contenders.
Yeah, I think so too. And uh, I don't know. What was your feelings coming into the race? I was so excited finally to
Yeah,
get the get the season started.
Absolutely, yeah. I got right at the start of the race was a little weird when the lights went out. Just hearing how quiet it was, it was a little bit of a strange sensation. I was like, wait, are they going? Are they racing? Is this the race? Is it happening? Is this another formation lap? I can't tell. It was a little bit strange at the start, but yeah, I was extremely excited. I had very high hopes. And I mean, right off the bat, it got pretty interesting when Kamui Kobayashi had his brake failure and went flying into the back of Felipe Massa. Unfortunate because I had Massa finishing fifth in the race, so I was pretty bummed about that. Also because Kamui did a great job in qualifying, getting himself into Q2. He was in a good position, I think, to maybe challenge for some points. Certainly a better position than the Marushas were in. But yeah, that was really unfortunate. I'm almost sad to say that I'm happy that it was not Kamui's fault. I'm glad that it was a brake failure, because that would be really awkward to just slam into the back of someone for your first race back. That would not be the start that they were looking for. Um, but yeah, pretty interesting right off the bat. Yeah, as you mentioned, Kevin Magnussen just barely hanging onto the car before flying into the barriers. Hulkenberg had a really good start. Alonso, right off the bat, was pretty surprising the pace that he had. The Ferrari's kind of been a question mark all preseason long as far as their pace, and he seemed to be right there with Hulkenberg pretty much for the entire time.
Yeah, well, considering all the effort they've tried to make with Ferrari improving their pace, and we know that the Mercedes is the best engine, then I was a little bit expecting even a little bit more from Ferrari.
I was expecting Alonso actually to even get a podium, because he's Alonso and that's what he does. He just pulls magic out of a hat. So I was expecting Alonso to be pretty high up. I don't remember what predictions we made in the last Boxcast, but we did alter them, as we saw the practice sessions and stuff like that. I did not even have Kimi Räikkönen finishing in the points, just because he really seemed unhappy with the car during practice and throughout the weekend. He just really seemed to be struggling, and usually when Kimi's not happy with the car, Kimi doesn't do very well.
Yeah, but he still usually brings home the points, or even some points, even if the car isn't well. But
Yeah,
as far as we know, there was an electrical problem in both Ferraris that was something to do with their ERS boost, if I'm not completely wrong, that they have to manually switch the boost on and off on the straights and off in the corners, which sounds a bit of a pain.
well, the good news is though that would be like a software glitch. So, there's nothing fundamentally wrong with the car. And the fact that they were able to get a double points finish, and have both cars finish the race in the points, it's very encouraging from Ferrari.
Yeah,
I think they're certainly in a better position than say like 2012. Time will tell how much of a better position they are versus last year, but um, yeah, I think that's a problem that they'll be able to fix relatively easily. It's a 2 week break between Australia and Malaysia, so that gives Ferrari plenty of time to work out all the bugs in their software.
and I'm expecting more from Ferrari in
Yes.
Malaysia, but I have to say, uh, Kimi has a pretty he has a very he really knows what he wants from his car in
Yes.
turning and braking. So
Yes.
those lockups were really really a testament to the fact that there was something in the car that he just didn't like the handling of. He has a
Yeah.
very distinct way of turning into the corner. So if he's getting the lockups, then the car isn't the way he wants it to be.
Yeah. Yeah, Kimi, he definitely wasn't happy with it. He wasn't glowing after this year's Australian Grand Prix like he was last year. But yeah, I don't expect that to last very long. Talking about more people at the front of the pack, Vettel and Hamilton both DNF'd pretty quickly. I want to say both of them even stopped by lap five.
Let's see.
I think it was
Um,
something like that.
Hamilton on he finished, yeah, Hamilton at the end of lap 2 and Vettel at the end of lap 3.
Well, the radio call came into Hamilton on lap two to come in, but he actually they changed that and he stayed out for a few more laps, I thought.
Yeah, well that's what the official results say. So
Oh, oh, okay. Well, never mind
well,
then.
he completed 2 laps officially, I think so.
Oh, okay.
Well,
But yeah, that was pretty surprising. I don't think. I mean, everybody was expecting DNFs. I don't. Anybody that was expecting all 22 cars to finish the race was insane.
yeah.
Um, I think I predicted 16 finishers. It was pretty close to that actually. I think it was 15, 16, 17, something like that.
It
So
was it was 13 finishers and Juice Bianchi finished 8 laps behind, so he DNF'd
oh, okay.
on lap 49.
Gotcha. Okay, yeah, then actually that's quite a bit less. But Hamilton, I was surprised about. I thought Mercedes had their stuff together. Red Bull, I was expecting a DNF. In my predictions for the race, I only had one Red Bull finishing in the top 10, and I figured it was going to be Vettel. Obviously, that was incredibly the exact opposite choice that I should have been making. But I was surprised that it happened that early. I expected DNFs to start happening maybe after the first pit stop or something like that. We even had trouble on the grid though, when Max Chilton's car stalled when they were getting ready to do the formation lap. And then Max Chilton's car, or no, I'm sorry, Jules
Juice Bianchi.
Bianchi's car. Yeah, Jules Bianchi's car stalled as well after the first
Yeah,
formation lap, and they had to do a second formation lap. So I mean, they were able to both continue. Yeah,
yeah, they did. Yeah,
But Bianchi, it took a while for them to get his going.
yeah. I mean, Bianchi. I think there were well, at least there was the safety car which allowed him to rejoin the pack. But I think Chilton had a penalty already during the race because he left the pits too early before the race, which is a bit of a silly
Yeah,
reason to get a drive-through penalty even before the race even starts.
I think Grosjean had a similar penalty for leaving the pits too early or too late or speeding in the pits, some sort of silly pit-related penalty. So clearly, and it might be software related. Again, there's a lot more computer stuff going on with these cars. So it could be software related that are causing a lot of these types of issues. Um, speaking of technical issues, the FIA, the overlay, the FOM overlay during the race, that was experiencing some problems as well. I think because they're probably trying new things. They did have at least they had the new overlay for the onboard. I remember that one, and then
Yeah,
they had another new overlay that kind of helped to explain DRS activations lap by lap.
yeah,
So they have a couple new graphics, but it seemed like they were actually having more problems than success. And also, it just seemed like a real lack of information on the screen this year. There
hmm
just seemed to be less information available to me as a viewer while I was watching. In previous years, I swear they have every car up at the top left, just all 22 down the line. And this year, they're showing a 2 car split, a 5 car split, and it just seemed like less information overall.
yeah. I think it was actually Alex Gillen who complained in Twitter after the race or during the race of a kind of a lack of information. Of course, we know that these ERS systems are extremely complicated, and the information of the ERS might be difficult for people to understand. But that's more the reason why there should be a graphic of the
Yeah.
ERS working, because we can see the red light flashing when the drivers are saving fuel in the crash structure. The rain light is
Hmm.
flashing.
Hmm.
So why not have that on the onboard graphic? I don't know. Shouldn't be
Yeah.
too hard to make.
It was a little disappointing. I'm thinking, I haven't really discussed this with anyone. I haven't even brought this up with you yet, but I'm thinking they're trying to make the F1 timing app more desirable for people. I believe it features a lot more information. Actually, I do remember seeing on Twitter, though, that the F1 timing app was having problems as well. So apparently they're just having problems all over the place. But it almost felt like they were intentionally denying information in an effort to try and get people to pay money for the full information that they would normally have up there, which is a little bit of a bummer to see, unfortunately. I don't even have a phone that uses apps, so there's no way that I could ever obtain the F1 timing app. I have no plans to get a smartphone at any point in time. So that was a little disappointing. Hopefully that's something they can improve. Maybe they were just having some issues. I mean, there were some weird overlay glitches where you see names over other names. I remember seeing a tweet from someone that showed that Felipe Massa was in 13th somehow. Even though he didn't even make it to turn one. So there was definitely some stuff going on that side of things, but it's a multi-million-dollar sport, so hopefully it's something that they can get sorted out for Malaysia.
As far as I know, the official F1 app it is so so expensive. It's like, let me
It's like
check.
$10, something like that. Or you know what? I
Okay.
think it was 10 British pounds, which means it's like $15.
I don't know if I can even see the cost. Yeah, yeah. Premium season pass, $11.
So that's just for 1 year. That's just for the
Yeah.
2014 season. Wow, wow. Yeah. So clearly they're trying. That's what I think anyway. Again, we'll have to see. This is just the first race of the season. It's possible they were just having problems, but that would be really, really, really unfortunate to see if they were just trying to charge people so that they could get the full information about what's going on in the race. Um, so moving on, I wanted to talk about McLaren real quick. I mean, especially Kevin Magnussen, to be honest. Great job from him. He finished third in the end, but of course, with Ricardo being DNF'd or disqualified, that moved him up to second and Jensen up to third, which means that McLaren started off their 2014 season with a double podium, and I think they're second or they're first in the
They're
Constructors'
leading,
Championship.
yeah.
Yeah, they're first in the Constructors' Championship. They have 33 points currently, Mercedes with 25. So, I mean, what a turnaround from them, and what a great drive as well from Kevin Magnussen. He's clearly proven already that he deserves to be in F1.
Yeah, really, really level-headed and really, really grounded, and didn't make any mistakes. Or the first 5 seconds of the start, maybe that was bit of a over
Yeah.
eagerness, but that was pretty much it. Didn't make any mistakes.
And honestly, the overeagerness worked out. He got a pretty good launch, all things considered. It was a little bit dramatic looking, and I think Alonso ended up taking him at the inside of turn one, possibly. But I mean, he did get a good launch compared to other people. He got a better launch than Lewis Hamilton, for example, and Hamilton is a world champion. So great
Well,
drive from
Lewis
him.
did have his engine problems, so
Oh, that's right. That's right. Got a little carried away with that one. But yeah, he did a great job in the race. As you said, no mistakes from him whatsoever. Even Bottas had that small mistake with the barrier that caused his wheel rim to get damaged, and he had to pit, and that actually ended up causing the safety car. But so Magnussen actually, even I would say, had technically less mistakes than Bottas did, even though Bottas has the year of experience under his belt already. So really impressive. I got to say, as a Perez fan, I wouldn't have been upset if he did poorly. But he's really impressed me. Again, clearly he deserves to be in F1. Great job by McLaren to give him a shot. And honestly, I would be really surprised even just based off this first race. I would be really surprised if Jenson Button's able to beat him.
I think they'll be pretty evenly matched, even with that broken nose. Button he was catching him, but not by much. So yeah, we'll have to see about that. That's gonna be a we'll have to see if I mean Jensen is a McLaren man through
Yep.
and through now, at least
Yep.
after 3 years
Hmm.
the team, he's a McLaren guy. So we'll have to see if Magnussen just sweeps the floor with him, then it's hard to see him staying in F1 beyond 2015.
Yeah, yeah, I agree. I mean, I hope he doesn't do too badly because I would like to see him in a Honda-powered McLaren for 2015. But I mean, if he does poorly enough, but I mean, right off the bat, he's already started the season with a podium, so I don't expect Jensen will be leaving at the end of 2014 unless something crazy happens. But I think Kevin has the potential in qualifying that Jensen never quite had. So I think if Kevin can really out qualify Jensen on a consistent basis, I don't think he'll have any trouble beating him.
Yeah, and we'll have to see about his consistency, but so far it's looking really good.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. Just to revisit on Bottas really quickly, your fellow countryman there, fantastic job from him. He, of course, had that one mistake where he hit the barrier and that caused the safety car and everything. But besides that, an amazing drive in the end to what was his final finishing position?
Fifth.
Fifth? Yeah.
Yeah.
So, I mean, I don't know the exact figures, but to go from as high as he was down to as far low as he was, and then back up to fifth. Really impressive drive, and I think it says a lot about Bottas, but I think it also says a lot about the 2014 Williams. What is this? The FW33?
I think
Something like that.
36.
36? Jeez, I'm way behind. But yeah, I think it says a lot about both driver and car.
Yeah, it was really nice to see him. He was really You can see that he is really comfortable with the car and able to push, and really you can see the confidence in him. All those passes, I think he passed like 20 cars during the race, and
Some of them twice.
yeah, exactly. So yeah, really looking forward to also seeing Massa doing well. We talked about this before we started recording, that Massa will probably at some point be quicker than Alonso. But that's gonna be a bit
That's
of a
gonna be a fun race.
bit of a revenge
Yes,
against Alonso.
absolutely. Yeah, I can't wait. I mean, I'm looking forward to even see them battle each other, regardless of who comes out on top. Just to see Massa and Alonso go wheel to wheel would really be a treat to see. They're just both so experienced, and they've raced against each other for so many years at this point that they know each other so well, their strengths and weaknesses. With Felipe in such a competitive car, and especially the high that he's on right now. He's very much the man to look at the team. The person to look up to. Valtteri obviously has lots and lots of skill. He's going to be in F1 for a while, I think. But Felipe is the man that everyone is looking up to, ironically, because he's so short. Um, so yeah, I'm really excited for his future. It's really unfortunate that we didn't even get to see him race, really. I mean, it was bound to happen to someone, though. Somebody was going to slam into the back of somebody else. It was pretty much guaranteed. Um, Now, continuing on from Bottas, the safety car that it caused, the safety car is not something that we saw very much in 2013. We did see the safety car. We saw the safety car more than we saw rain in the races, but it was, refreshing, sort of, that right off the bat, first race of the season, we're getting a safety car. How do you feel about safety cars? I've always felt it kind of revitalizes a potentially boring race. But do you think it's going to help or hinder?
Yeah, it's a bit of a refreshing refreshing start to a race again, if especially if there's people that are really far back who have really good pace, like Bottas did.
Hmm.
Like he was at the back and he had to repass all those guys. So uh, for
It does
Australia,
mess with strategy too. It forces people to
yeah,
rethink their strategy, which is nice.
yeah. In Australia, I think someone mentioned that it's 80% chance to get a safety car in Australia, just because it's the first race of the season and everybody's a
Wow.
bit unreliable and just on their nerves a little bit. And the track is used once in a year, so it's very
Yep, it's got
green.
all those white lines on
Yeah,
it that are sometimes painted black, but it's got all those painted lines. And we did see rain ever so slightly. For those that were paying attention to the Red Bull radio transmissions, there was a little bit of rain at turn 3 at the end of the second DRS straight, but nothing that actually caused any sort of reduction in grip or anything like that. Um, I was personally kind of hoping for a wet race, maybe a mixed conditions race, something like that to kick off the season. But I think it's probably for the best actually that they start off with a dry race. I mean, you could see people struggling even in the dry.
I mean it was good to see, like from an analytical perspective, it was good to see the cars at their true pace in
Yes.
the dry, so we can really
Yes.
have some clue of where everybody is. So in
Yeah.
that sense, I was psyched about a dry race, but of
Y-
course, well, we got the wet quali at least. So actually, I have to say about the Williams in the wet didn't didn't seem too impressive. I have to say.
Yeah. 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 That was a little surprising. We ended up both of us ended up picking Valtteri Bottas for most positions gained in the race because he was starting so far back after he got a 5 place grid penalty and he was looking so strong. And then of course his quali was a little bit low as well. So I think his the place where he started ended up being gosh like 13th, 14th, 15th.
I think
I want to say
15th.
15th. Yeah.
Yeah.
So not the best qualifying, coupled with a 5 place grid penalty, just meant that he would likely be overtaking a lot of people, and we were both right about that. And yeah, I think it was good for him that it ended up being a dry race. But yeah, as you were saying, I think there would have been pros and cons to each. And the pros of the dry race is, we really get to see the true pace of everybody. Because you throw rain in there, and some cars handle the wet tires better than others. Correct me if I'm wrong, but don't the cars ride a little bit higher up when they're on the wet tires because of the grooves?
Yeah, yeah. I think there's
Okay.
even a setting in the steering wheel for wet tires, which it corrects the speedometer because it's reading
Oh, right, because the tires are actually a
the bigger.
larger diameter.
Yeah,
So yeah, gotcha. Yeah. So yeah, it was nice to see the dry race. Would have been nice to see a wet race as well. Hopefully, we get more wet races than we got last year, since we didn't get a single wet race last year actually. So that would be nice to see. Want to briefly talk about the two Lotuses. They both DNF'd. Grosjean though made it until lap 43 of an almost 60 lap race. So about 75% of the race completed for at least one of the Lotus cars.
and uh, both Lotuses, I think they DNF'd because of a curse failure or MGUK failure. So we'll have to see about if those are if the curse units, or I mean the MGUKs, are completely finished, or if they only have 4 left for the whole season.
Yeah. Yeah, because that would be really tough. There hasn't really been a lot of talk about it, at least on Sky F1, which is my preferred medium for getting all my F1. There hasn't been loads of talk or discussion about what happens if the cars use up all 5 of those. Let's say they're on their 5th one and it breaks down. What happens? Do you know?
I think it's a 10 place grid penalty. It seems a engine change.
Oh, okay. Okay, so you can
Yeah,
use a 6th one. You're just going to get penalized for it.
yeah, yeah.
Okay, okay. I was worried that we would be at the end of the season and we'd actually be seeing grids of 16, 14 cars.
No.
But yeah, I can't imagine that happening now that I'm thinking about it because of advertising revenue and stuff like that.
Yeah.
And I think F1 is guaranteed to bring a certain number of cars to each venue and whatnot. So good that we don't have to worry about that. But yeah, that is unfortunate that Lotus used up one of theirs already. I think the Caterham of Marcus Ericsson, I believe, had his replaced before the race as well. So several cars already having integral pieces of their powertrains replaced already.
Ericsson DNF because of an oil pressure uh, leak, or
I thought he had
uh,
his changed before the race, though. Even
it might have, yeah, but
I
his
think
his
I think so.
DNF was an oil pressure problem.
Gotcha. Yeah, I gotta say just really quickly, probably before we move on, it was a little. I was really pulling for Caterham or Marussia points in this race. It's only going to get harder from this point forward for them to get into the points as the teams come to grips with their power plants and all the ERS and recoveries and all that sort of stuff. It's only going to get tougher for teams like Caterham and Marussia to try and score those points that they need. So I was a little bit bummed that that one of them at least wasn't able to get some points. I think that would have been one of the benefits of seeing a wet race. If
Yeah,
Australia had been a wet race, I think it would have slightly increased the likelihood of seeing a backmarker score some points finally.
I had to say a word on Sauber. They look really bad actually compared to the others. They're both Saubers are one lap down, while well just before the Marussias. But everybody else was, well, Sergio Perez was 85 seconds behind the leader, but Sutil and Gutierrez both in 11th and 12th. They were both a lap down, so not looking pretty good, or not looking good for Sauber at this point.
Yeah, I agree. And actually, I'm glad you mentioned that because the one team that we didn't talk about yet, who we really should talk about, is Toro Rosso.
Yeah,
What a surprising result from them. I didn't fathom for even a minute that a Toro Rosso would be in the top 10. Didn't even cross my mind when I was looking at the GP predictor, even after seeing practice and all that. They looked good in practice, but for some reason, I still just wasn't expecting anything crazy from them. And they both got into the points, if I'm not mistaken.
yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
8th and
So
9th.
so Toro Rosso ends up with a double points finish, where Sauber end up getting both cars lapped, which is, I mean, polar opposite to what we saw like in 2012. Last year, I think actually the Sauber and the Toro Rossos weren't too far off. They were pretty close, maybe with Sauber having a little bit of an edge later in the season. But yeah, that's really encouraging stuff for Toro Rosso. Also, I believe Daniil Kvyat became the youngest ever point scorer in Formula One
Yeah,
history after beating Sebastian Vettel.
yeah. He looked pretty solid, and I was actually, uh, I wasn't expecting anything else from him.
Yeah,
Looked he's only 3 seconds behind his teammate, so really impressive.
yeah. I mean, that kid's like 8 years younger than me, something like that.
He's 19.
Yeah. Okay, it's like 9 years younger than me. Something like that. Yeah, I mean that's really impressive stuff. And that's been a talking point for other people as well. How impressive the rookies were in Australia here for 2014. Really impressive stuff to see Magnussen and Kvyat and Ricardo. He's not a rookie, but he's a rookie at Red Bull. Bottas still kind of rookie-ish. Just really, really impressive performances from a lot of the new kids, and it's really encouraging to see, to know
For
that
F1.
when, yeah, yeah, I mean, to know that when, the legends, Alonso and Kimi and Hamilton, when these guys retire, we're gonna have no issues. Clearly the racing is still gonna be
Yeah.
extremely, extremely professional, extremely fast paced. It's gonna be hectic. It's gonna be amazing. So, really great stuff.